Gail Gallie, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
Can you tell me a little bit about Project Everyone?
So Project Everyone is a communications unit that has been set up by myself and Richard Curtis, the filmmaker, but also the humanitarian, and we exist entirely to promote the work of the SDGs, which we have renamed the Global Goals because we feel it's a name that might be a little easier to communicate around the world.
So let's back up for a second. What are SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals?
So I'll tell you from the story goes, you started in 2000 when there were the Millennium Development Goals, which were a 15-year set of goals to alleviate extreme poverty on the planet. The Sustainable Development Goals take over from them in 2015, and they also include the climate goals. So the idea with the new goals is they are set to eradicate extreme poverty, which is poverty that will kill you, basically, manage out some of the inequalities in the planet, and reverse the effects of climate change.
So Project Everyone is working with public, private, and the civil sectors, including the UN. How are you working with these groups to really accomplish your goals?
So the reason we want to work with everybody is quite simple. The Millennium Development Goals weren't particularly well publicised. They were very much known by the UN and within the sectors that they operated, but the public didn't know about them. So Richard Curtis's idea was he went to the UN and said, these goals will have more chance of being achieved if they are universally known. So we wanted to create like the next Declaration of Human Rights, the next Magna Carta, which means we have to talk to everybody. Now, there's reasons to have them known and reasons to have them acted on. So if you go to the UN level, we work with the UN to ensure the goals remain front of mind, because there are always crises. Each year we'll have a different problem. Each presidency will bring different challenges in different countries. So our first job with the UN is to help them stay on track with their own goals. So we make really easy, shareable content assets. We support their conferences to help them stay on the plan. With businesses and private sector, the play there is the goals will only be achieved if we bring business onto the plan. And the thing is, so many businesses are already doing great work to achieve the various goals, but most of them aren't yet framing it in the SDG language. So our job there is to really establish the SDGs as the framework by which businesses achieve social impact. And so how we do that is, like the UN, we make really simple, digestible, positive storytelling assets that they can use with their employees, to their customers, and when they get together at places like the World Economic Forum and the UNGA. The third level that we talk to is civil society. And again, here you have these enormous bodies of great people championing the various different goals, but not necessarily badging them in the SDG plan. So like the private sector, we just want everybody to use the same framework and the same common language and iconography so that we know when we're making progress. And then we wrap all of that in public awareness because, again, a quote from Richard, people cannot fight for their rights if they don't know what they are. So once a year, we have a moment of reckoning and accountability in September around the anniversary of the goals being signed, and we make as much noise as we can to tell everyone about the global goals.
And you really have been able to go viral and make sure that people around the world are seeing your work.
We try. So we have a really great network of friends and family from the creative industries, from the business world, from the music industry. We made a particular hit last year where we remade a famous Spice Girls track, which happened to be its 20th anniversary of Girl Power. So we did a whole film on Girl Power and Goal 5, which we got very lucky with because Victoria Beckham put it on her own Facebook page. So I think it got about 200 million hits in
not bad.
Less than a month. Not bad. I know, from a tiny little communications unit in London. We were really happy.
Well, you've had a lot of successes, but can you tell me what you've done that's really made the most impact? And specifically as a leader, how are you empowering people to spread this message?
So I love that quote, which I think a CEO is credited with in the 50s, which is, I know half of my marketing doesn't work. I just wish someone could tell me which half. And there's a lot of that with us. You know, we try to bring together unusual suspects, and we try to unleash as much creativity around those suspects and those moments as possible, and then we let go. And I think in terms of our leadership style at our company, at Project Everyone, is empowerment and freedom, and not just of our own people, but of the messages, all our partners around the world. You know, you're never going to get slapped with some kind of writ from us about not using things properly or doing something we didn't ask you to, because we believe these goals will be achieved when everybody feels they're theirs to own and play back. So I think it's a combination of disruption, innovation, creativity, and then freedom.
That freedom is really powerful. And so you're working with all 17 of these sustainable development goals.
That's a convenient number, right?
But number 5 really holds a special place in my heart, in your heart. Talk to me a little bit about gender equality.
So goal 5 is possibly the most empowering of all the goals, and it's the disproportionately important one. If you achieve goal 5, then zero poverty, zero hunger, full education, the environment goals, all of these are more positively impacted if we empower and bring women into equal footing across the world. So what we said about last year was a real focus, not just on that goal, but the impact of achieving that goal on all of the goals. And we worked with a coalition of really powerful, unusual suspects together, kicked off at the World Economic Forum in a campaign that we called I Am Woman. And the premise there was there has never been a better time to be a woman, and yet we are still living with these inequalities. So we ran a campaign throughout that year, which culminated in the Spice Girls video, where we were calling on an end to domestic marriage, full education for girls, equal pay for equal work. And we brought all of the results of that campaign, and we held an awards ceremony actually in New York at the General Assembly, where we brought people like the Olympic swimmer who had literally been rescued from a boat coming from Syria, and she had swum with others because she was such a strong swimmer, and she ended up swimming in Rio in the Olympic refugee team. And we brought a young lady from Tanzania who'd fled her homeland because she was being outlawed because she didn't want to be married as a child. And from outside of Tanzania, she campaigned, and that government in that year overturned their rules on child marriage. And we brought a few of these young women, incredible women, to New York to tell their story. We had a room of 300, President of the World Bank, Bill Gates, you name it, they were there. Everybody stopped talking for the women. And for us, that was a little microcosm of what will happen when we fully empower girls all over the world to take their rightful place on the planet.
I hope you feel proud of what you're doing and that you feel the impact that you're making.
Well, I mean, thank you. We feel really happy and lucky to be working where we are, because these are great times. We have great connections to make things happen, but we are a very small contribution to this amazing amount of work that goes on from the UN itself, the field workers especially, the campaigners, and the citizens. The stories that come from individuals in places where the rights that we have as women, for example, are a dream. That these women are fighting and they're quietly changing things. So I feel more lucky than I do proud. But sometimes when you get a big hit, you just feel really happy.
I must say that I'm proud to work at Salesforce, and we have really made an impact, in my opinion, on equal pay, standing up for equal pay, honoring women like Billie Jean King, Lily Ledbetter, Patricia Arquette, in their fights for equal pay as well. Where do businesses come in? What is their role and their responsibility to create gender equality?
Well, I think it's not just for gender. Business has a huge role to play in achieving all of the goals. But on gender, they have their own employees for a start, so they can pay their employees equally. They can be transparent about how they do that, which some people are, some people aren't. They have their communications channels. There are so many. I used to run an ad agency. How we advertise and communicate products as businesses has a huge impact in just subtly confirming or overturning stereotypes. And I think businesses need to really harness that responsibility for the good and thoughtfully do that. And then they have their own kind of customers and touch points. And, if you think, I think we were just discussing upstairs, Salesforce has its own staff, but then the sort of sphere that you operate in with all of your customers, if you are giving out gender empowerment messaging to all of those people, and if every business with a network is doing the same thing, then we will achieve it way faster than a law, or a government can regulate. Businesses just need to, it's the classic, they need to be the change. And, it's brilliant when companies do it, just brilliant.
So you've had a lot of experience in the business world. Tell me a little bit about your experience with gender being a differentiator in your position, or how you've gotten over those hurdles.
So I get asked about this a lot. The standard question you get asked is, why are there not more women CEOs? Why are there not more women on boards? And I'm a real optimist, and I'm a real believer in women or in people generally. And I sort of think, often in the Western world at least, women are very, very canny about what it is they want and how they want to make their impact. And sometimes it isn't being the CEO, because frankly, there's a lot of intuitively female characteristics that go along with that, the kind of bravado and the showing off and the tough and the deal breaking, not to mention running your family and having a balanced life. So I think what we need to do is not so much think about how do we get more women on boards, how do we make companies less reliant on those old structures and stereotypes. And I feel personally I've just been very lucky, because I'm also quite a maverick, so I've basically always just done what I want. And I think I've been in advertising, I've been in broadcasting, I've been in sectors that you're told have got gender issues. I think I've just chosen not to see them. And I think obviously there are some firm ceilings that need to be smashed, but as an individual, I think you have a lot of choice about what you see and don't see and what you acknowledge and don't acknowledge. And I feel like if you just reframe it, reframe it as something that isn't a problem for you and just go and do what you want. We're very strong-willed women, let's be honest. I have a daughter and a son, and I know which one is going to choose the path she wants, and it's the girl, the boy. And I feel like women just need to stop seeing these things. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, and of course, get women in positions in companies that can support that, because I acknowledge that maybe a lot of women aren't as confident as I am, perhaps, or have been as lucky in career situations. But I think that combination of individuals just don't see it, don't acknowledge when you see a barrier, just crash through it. And then women, us older women in business, can become those powerful mentors to celebrate that. And men. And,
right.
We work with a lot of female ambassadors. Emma Watson famously has done the He for She campaign, which is but you talk to any sister in Africa and she'll say the same thing. Unless we've got our men with us, we're never going to have gender equality. So this is not about setting women up as some other superpower. It's just about balance. And I think most men are with that program.
Yes, and it's really empowering when they are as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being such a maverick, and for us, a trailblazer, a CEO trailblazer who's really making a difference in this world.
Thank you so much.